Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It is so nice to see you all here. We are always so grateful for your participation in our events. My name is Sana Rehmat, and I am the Faculty Outreach Advisor at XtremeLabs. With me is Mr. Mori Ghazavi. He is the Director and Chief of Technology at XtremeLabs. We are really excited to be hosting this MCT Meetup in December. Today, I'm really glad to be introducing Mr. John Morah as our co host for this month's MCT Meetup. Mr. John Morah is a Microsoft certified trainer, MCT, and cloud architect who began fixing computers in January 2001. He deploys, supports, and provides technical training on Microsoft technologies such as Azure, Microsoft 365, Data Platform, Power BI, DevOps, on prem servers, and many other applications. He has been an active participant in almost all of our MCT meetups, and I'm glad that we are ending this year 2022 with him as our co host. We look forward to having him participate and engage in all of our upcoming events. I would like all of you to please welcome Mr. John Morah. So, John, without any further ado, I would like to hand over this session to you, and the stage is all yours. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Sana. Thank you very much to Team XtremeLabs, and thank you very much to other MCTs and participants. I like to learn and I like to share knowledge, and I appreciate this privilege to be able to do this presentation. So, for this presentation, we're going to be looking at something that I titled Microsoft Certified Courseware Sources. So we're going to be looking at the various sources that we can get courseware from when it comes to delivering training. And that's what this is basically focused on. So I have about two decade experience as an IT individual. I have about 11 years experience as an MCT. So I think I've been in this space for a while. And in addition to trainings, I do deployments too. So this is the agenda for this particular presentation. We're going to be looking at introduction first, then we'll see the objective for this meetup. Thereafter, we're going to move to the different sources that we can actually get courseware from. So yeah, we are looking at about maybe 7 slides at most, effectively 5 slides. So but these days, I realize that practical aspect has a way of making things really, really interesting instead of the theories. So from module 2 to 5, we're going to be looking at the various sources we can get courseware from. We have the very popular one. We have the courseware marketplace. It contains the MOC, Microsoft official courseware, as well as Microsoft official courseware courses, as well as community courses. So these are very, very popular ones. Then in addition to that, we have the skill pipe marketplace. This is also where we can get courseware we can use in delivering trainings. Then we have another very interesting one known as Microsoft Press. Microsoft Press also gives us courseware we can also use for training. Interestingly, I think the first two they are for MCTs only, but Microsoft Press is both for MCTs as well as non-MCTs. For this particular, this meetup is merely for MCTs. But I also remember that even non-MCTs were also invited. For non-MCTs that want to deliver trainings on Microsoft technology, they can get courseware from this Microsoft Press. Then there is the 4B part, which is other sources. Other sources like maybe Willy, Cybex, like Amazon, and so on. Then the last source I included here is Microsoft Learn. As a matter of fact, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of engagements on Microsoft Learn. So obviously, talking about a courseware source without including Microsoft Learn is definitely incomplete. So we're going to be looking at Microsoft Learn. The Microsoft Learn will have the GitHub website that provides the lab instructions. We're going to be looking at some other things related to that. Then hopefully this will bring us to the end of this particular presentation. So let's go to the introductory aspect. So when it comes to a movie, the quality of a movie is really dependent on the director. It's really the performance of the actors and actresses. Directors play a very important role, in getting a very good movie. In addition to that, the development of a place is usually directly related to the culture of that environment. So what I'm trying to say here is this, courseware plays a very important role in determining the quality of an IT training. So I've had over 10 years experience as an MCT. I've had over 20 years experience as both a teacher and a trainer. And I realized that the courseware plays a key role in the satisfactory delivery of a course. A courseware that was properly written with less error, good lab instructions would always ensure a satisfactory delivery when compared to a courseware that has lots of errors, that the lab instructions are not well written. So obviously, that is a key game changer. So as an IT trainer, as an MCT, getting good courseware is key. So yeah, when we talk about a courseware, there may be different definitions about courseware, but the courseware would usually contain a course manual, course slides, course lab instruction, and so on and so on. So a courseware usually would encompass these key items. Then for the sources we can get this courseware, we can, as MCTs, not only as MCTs, as IT trainers, we can get them from a variety of sources. These sources can be that MCT only sources, or it could be open sources. So for open sources, both MCTs and non-MCTs can actually access courseware there. So these are like these different sources can be categorized. I categorize them into two: MCT only, for MCTs only, and open sources. In addition to MCTs only, learning partners, Microsoft learning partners, they are with MCT, but they basically go together. Then let's note that so each of these sources, they have their own uniqueness, i.e., the MCT only sources usually have full-fledged standard courseware. Those courseware have been fully designed. In other words, the MCT can access it and start delivering trainings immediately. Whereas for the open source, those software, those courseware, or what I'm calling IT course resources, usually requires extra effort. So as to be able to create maybe the slides, to be able to set up the lab, at least to be able to do. There's usually some extra work required before that particular course resource can be used. Then that extra effort usually may be from the MCT or maybe from the training provider. So that is that. That's for the introductory aspect. So what are we trying to achieve in this particular section? Obviously, we want to identify the various sources that we can get courseware from. And very importantly, we need to know their uniqueness. So what are the uniqueness? If you are getting a courseware from an open source, now there will be some extra work the trainer would have to do. But in addition to that, that open source provides is a bit more flexible in the sense that you can use them for maybe to create other courses. You can even use them doing deployment in production environment. But if you get a courseware from an MCT source, there's usually less work. The courseware from the MCT source has been fully provisioned at like 99.99% completion. But that courseware from the MCT source is usually specific for that particular course alone. Whereas for the open source, it can be adjusted to suit to basically provide multiple courseware from it. Then the next thing I also realized that we can gain from this is the trend when it comes to courseware sources. So when I talk about trend, Microsoft Learn is actually transforming how courses are used for Microsoft technology. Before now, the trend was basically using courseware marketplace. It's still there, it's still fine, it's still doing well, but that is gradually being replaced by the Microsoft Learn. Then in this slide, I bolded some sources. Then I didn't bold some. The ones that I bolded are the ones I think they are likely trying to override other sources. For example, I'm thinking that the community courseware would always be there. I'm also thinking that Microsoft Press is likely going to be there. Definitely, Microsoft Learn is key. Going forward, most of the courseware we use or Microsoft technology will likely be coming from the Microsoft Learn. So that is why I bolded some of these sources. It's just my personal opinion based on what I'm observing. So then, yeah, so we have basically two sources, MCT only sources, which provide fully designed courseware. Great, makes it easy for MCTs. Then open sources, you have to do extra effort in creating maybe slides and setting up the labs and so forth and so on. Then for the objective, so yeah, we need to identify the trend and then we start adjusting accordingly to the trend. Then the most important objective here is to be able to optimize the use of these various courseware sources. Optimize them means that we know their uniqueness and try to use them. Personally, I work as an MCT. I deliver a lot of trainings. When I show to doing trainings, I do deployments. When I want to do deployments, most times I like to go to the open source. The open source in the sense that most of the steps there are original. So most of the steps they usually align to real production environment. Whereas for the MCT only sources, most times they are designed specifically for that course. Then once we identify the uniqueness, we'll know how to use them. For those that are not MCTs, if you want to deliver IT trainings on Microsoft technology, how do you get your courseware? You can get it by going to the open source. The open source will maybe Microsoft Press, it could maybe Willy Cybex, and so on. So this is my introduction stroke objectives. So let's start looking at each of these sources that we can get courseware from to deliver training. So one very popular one is the courseware marketplace. And the courseware marketplace contains basically two categories of courses. I'm going to be doing some demo on this a bit. We have the MOC. MOC is Microsoft Official Courseware. Then we have the community courses. I remember I boarded this. Then this is the URL to basically locate it. A lot of us already go to that environment. So what's some of the uniqueness of this courseware marketplace? First and foremost, it is for only MCTs and maybe learning partners. So IT trainers that are not MCTs most likely will not be able to access courseware. Another unique aspect is that the courseware are basically for Microsoft technologies only. Well, occasionally you may see Linux, you may see, but 99% of the courses you see there, they are majorly Microsoft technologies. Then, in addition to that, it contains basically two categories of courses. You have the Microsoft official courseware courses, and you have the community courses. So I'm going to be doing some demo on that very soon. So yeah, I boarded the community courses. Why? I boarded it because of the legacy courses. Microsoft focus currently is heavily on cloud platform, Azure, Microsoft 365, and 365. So because of that, the on-premises technologies courseware they have been retired. They are not really being replaced directly. But a lot of clients still use on-premises server technologies. There's still request, for those trainings on-premises courseware technology. So I've been in platforms, I've come across MCTs that basically want those courseware for the on-premises technology. So how can they locate it? They can actually locate it from the community courses, So currently some vendors are trying to rewrite those retired courseware. Once they write them, they basically group them under the community courses. So please, any question here? These three dots is majorly for like questions. It's also for space for other MCTs to make contribution, because I want to believe that a lot of MCTs that would have used this, a lot of MCTs that may also have some contributions to make. So please, any questions, any contribution, because this is more of like interactive section. So let's quickly look at this the courseware marketplace, especially the community courseware. So this is the URL. If you want to follow along, to be able to connect to this, you must have registered on this website before you can access it. You can register either as MCT or as a learning partner. A learning partner can be as gold, it can be as silver, or it can be as action pack. So I'm going to switch to my lab environment. So I've already opened this the various sites so that it will be a lot faster. So to access the Courseware Marketplace once more, you launch a web browser shop.courseware-marketplace.com. So this will bring us to the Courseware Marketplace website. Traditionally, this was basically where we bought courses that we eventually sent to the various students that are attending that training. So we see lots of courses here. The courses are still there. Then these various courses with their corresponding courseware, they are grouped into two. We have the Microsoft products, which is for Microsoft Technologies, of course, Microsoft Technologies. So the courses for each of these technology, they have their own courseware for different courses. Then obviously, this is mainly for Microsoft Technologies. So if I click on this particular option, I can basically search for a very popular course. Let me search for AZ104. So I'll hit enter. So this will display for AZ104. Let me go back to catalog. Okay. Let me do some filtering. I go to Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure will display the various courses we have under AZ104. Then each of these courses, they have their own courseware. So we see various courses here in multiple languages. So you can filter, you can do a lot of things. So this is a portal, this is wonderful, this is great. So traditionally, this is where we get the courseware, the lab we send to the students. But I think a very interesting aspect is the community courses. So for community courses, I'll come and then click for community courses. For that same community course, let me go to Azure. I look for Microsoft Azure. For this particular Microsoft product or courses, these are written directly by Microsoft. Most likely trainers that work with Microsoft, but these are basically Microsoft official courses. Then the second type is the community courses. For community courses, these are written by experts on Microsoft technologies. A lot of times they are MCTs, or they are basically organizations that are kind of independent of Microsoft, but they are partners to Microsoft. So if we click on Microsoft Azure, we're going to see different courses that MCTs or partners have written concerning specific requirements. So we click on Microsoft 365, we're going to see different courses and so on. But the reason why I'm trying to emphasize the community courses is because of those legacy courseware, legacy courses. A very popular one has been on Windows Server, SQL Server, and so on. So if you're an MCT and you're trying to get those courseware to deliver those courses, most likely this is where you can get it. So let's try to see how we get maybe a courseware on a legacy course on maybe on Windows Server. So for Windows Server, I'm going to search for the option Microsoft Windows Server. I click on it. So this will display different courses that non-Microsoft experts on Microsoft technology that are independent MCTs and the partners have written. So these are different courses. So if you go through this, you will see some of the legacy courses that Microsoft has basically removed from its MOC category. But one easy way you can really get those courses, the faster way you can get it is to go to the search relevance part, click on this and click on release date newest. So if we click on this will show us something very, very interesting, especially with regards to legacy courses. So here we see we'll see the various new courses displayed on top first. So this is a particular course, Identity with Windows Server. I think this course was formerly an MOC course, and the code was, I think it was 20742. So I think this particular course was on Windows Server 2016. I think it was on 20742, Identity Windows Server. Then, so you see Windows Server Administration, Then, but a very popular one. So this installation, storage, and compute with Windows Server. This was an MOC course, a course that was basically written by Microsoft in the past on Windows Server 2016. And this course has a course code of 2741. So this was course 2741, which was on Windows Server 2016. This is for identity. So, and the another interesting aspect, then this network with Windows Server, I think it was on it was also on Windows Server 2016, but I think it was on 20, maybe 27, but it was basically a legacy course that Microsoft used to write. So you can get those legacy courses right now from the courseware, from the community courses category. Another interesting thing about this community courses is that you can actually come across multiple courses on the same legacy course. For example, we see that there's identity with Windows Server. There's also identity with Windows Server. So what is happening here is sometimes multiple MCTs or multiple vendors can create the same course with respect to legacy course, and obviously they can give it the same name, but they will always differentiate it with different number. So we see installation, storage. This is 55376. This is another course on installation, and this is using a different number. So most likely they were written by different authors. This was written by Scalable. This was written by another author. So what this means that this provides us that flexibility of choosing from these different options. So you can basically display them, check the content, pick the one that is most suited to what you want to do. There's also a price differential, so I connected with MCT, that's why this is showing this. So, but if I were to log on with another account, so this, it will show the price. Usually as an MCT, you have access to a copy of each of these courses. After you have gotten that copy, you now have to pay. So for example, this one looks more expensive. If you're trying to get something a bit lower, you can pick this. Then this is for the courseware marketplace. So this is great, especially the community aspect that contains the legacy courses. Is there any questions, please? So I think we are done with this. Any questions? So next, we're going to be looking at a second source we can get courseware from. This is the Skill Pipe Marketplace. The Skill Pipe Marketplace is an interesting source because it contains courseware from different vendors. You can get courseware on Microsoft Technologies, you can get courseware on AWS, you can get courseware on GCP, and so on. You can access it by using this URL. Interestingly, the SkillPipe Marketplace and Courseware, they use the same domain. So the domain is still the Courseware-Marketplace, but they have different website or sub domain. This one is using Shop. This is using Avato. The SkillPipe Marketplace Courseware, they also refer to as Avato courses. Then let's take note that the SkillPipe Marketplace is usually for MCTs only. And then you actually access it immediately automatically after you must have registered with the courseware marketplace. They are both on the same domain. So this is for MCTs only. You can basically access courseware from multiple vendors, multiple Microsoft, AWS, Google, and so forth and so on. This is referred to as Avato courses. Then for SQSR was also another technology that lots of trainings are also that requests on trainings are also being received. So if you click on Microsoft SQL Server, so you'll see some replacement courses for those legacy courseware. So I've already changed this to newest. So under newest, we see something like administering SQL Server database infrastructure. This was formerly course code of 2762. This is a very popular one. Querying Microsoft SQL SQL Server. So this was course that Microsoft wrote in the past, but they kind of retired it. So other vendors took it upon themselves to recreate it. Of course, they give different code, but the content will basically be close to that. So the course code of this initially was 2761. It was a very popular one. Administering was 2764, and so on and so on. So when it comes to getting the legacy courseware, this is where you get them from. So I think we are done with this particular one. Any questions, please? Then let's look at some additional sources we can get courseware. Then the next one is the Microsoft Press. You can access it by going to this URL. Microsoft Press is a very interesting website. As a matter of fact, I personally like Microsoft Press a lot. I like it one because it's open source. So open source, both MCTs can access it as well as non-MCTs. You will see majorly Microsoft technologies, so and Microsoft courses. So that's basically what you will see. But the major thing a lot of us like about Microsoft Press is the courseware you see there, the textbooks you see, they are written in different series and styles. So the resources you see resources for fast delivery trainings. You would also see resources you can use in doing deployments. In addition to that, you also see resources you can use in creating even a course. Perhaps most MCTs and course developers, they get their courseware or textbook from Microsoft Press because they're actually a lot. So you can basically see course manuals. You can also get IT books. Those IT books are usually very, very robust and flexible. You can use in producing other types of IT resources. For most of the MCTs, what we like about the Microsoft Press a lot, there is a price discount. So there is usually 50% discount on soft copy materials. There is 40% discount for hard copy. If you had to go to to other sites like maybe Amazon or Cybex, you would have to pay the full amount. But as an MCT, once you log in as an MCT, provide the required code, you're going to get some slash of 50% and 40% for soft copy and hard copy respectively. So I think this is great. So the Microsoft Press website is wonderful. It's also open for authors to maybe create content, upload it there and use. So we're going to be looking. I'm going to be switching to the site where we see some interesting aspects, especially this multiple series or style format of resources. Please, any questions, please? So to access this, we have the website displayed here. So I'll switch to it. So I've already opened this to make it faster. So this is the Microsoft Press site. Then under the side, you're going to see lots of resources, majorly on Microsoft technologies. You see different topics. If you click on Windows, you're going to see resources on Windows, Office, server, programming. But what I really like about this, so these are different, is so yeah, for the format, before that we used to have hard copy, but most of the copies you see now, they are basically soft copy, most time because of the pandemic. Another interesting aspect, you can also get videos here too, practice test. But the aspect I'm personally interested in is the series option. For series option, for someone that wants to write exam, you come pick exam reference. So if you pick exam reference, you will see course textbooks, that would aid you in writing and passing exams. So it's basically like the same thing we have in the courseware marketplace, but these are a bit fine-tuned for exam. Take note of that 50% and 40% discount you get, which is really, really great. Then in addition to that, another aspect I really like is this step-by-step, is the training guide. Years ago, before I became an MCT, we used to have this type of textbook we use for training. It was referred to as, I think, training kit. So under the training kit series of textbooks, IT books, we are basically written for trainers. It were written by trainers, so you can basically use them to deliver your training. It was basically like a conventional, like a usual course. It was great, and it was very, very easy to work with. So for that particular aspect, you can also get something close to that. So if you want to get something close to that, we have the option of training guide. So training guide will basically provide you some textbooks that is basically, let me click on refresh. Okay, so let's go to training guide. Okay, so this will display IT textbooks that are written basically for aiding training. So, and then training. Okay, so yeah, you can now search for the particular textbook that that you are interested in. But in addition to that, we also have something for step-by-step. The step-by-step option is usually for office-related textbooks, Office Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and others. For someone that is interested in creating maybe courseware deployment, you have the Inside Out. So Inside Out is usually a very, very detailed textbook that contains a lot of things. So Inside Out may not really be too good when you want to do training because it may be too robust, it may be too open, it may be too detailed. So when you want to create maybe courseware, or when you want to do deployments, Inside Out is usually the series type that could be good on that. So you can see different, then you can also see the various authors. There may be a particular author whose maybe resources, whose textbooks, whose courseware you like using. So you can also search for courseware based on the various authors that basically created those course materials. So you can do some additional stuff, but these are some unique aspects of the Microsoft Press courseware. Okay, so that is for Microsoft Press. Let's look at the next courseware source. So the next courseware source, we're going to be looking at other courseware sources. So when we talk about other courseware sources, I'm basically referring to things like Cybex and Willy, Amazon, Park, Apress, and so on. So we have basically numerous open source websites you can access courseware. And this courseware, they are usually from different technologies and from different vendors. So if you're an MCT, you want to deliver training on maybe AWS, you want to do something you cannot locate on this one that we've already discussed, you can check Cybex, you can check Amazon, you can check Apress, and so on. But take note that these sources, sources, they also contain other merchandise, other merchandise such as maybe electronics, in addition to maybe IT books or course manual. Some examples here once more, they are basically Cybex, they are basically packed Apress, and so on. So some of the uniqueness of these open courseware sources are, from that site, you can also get other types of merchandise. You can maybe order for maybe laptops. You can order for even books that may not be IT related. If you're into leadership, if you go to some of these sites, you will see books on leadership. So this is open-ended. Anybody can actually access it. Anybody can also access it and use. Then let's quickly do some demo on a particular open source website. This particular case, we're going to be looking at the Willy website. So if you are doing this demo with me, you can just go to this URL. I've already opened it to make things faster. So I just go to that site. So on this particular site, you're going to see majorly books. The books can be on the IT books, Microsoft Technology, AWS, GCP, and you can also see books on other topics, personal development, educational resources, and so on. For example, let's try to search for something a bit popular, a popular course, AZ104. So if you search for AZ104, so this should display a course manual on AZ104. So in addition to that, you also have access to like labs if you want to do the labs. But if you want to do the lab, you can use the book. You can use the book to save costs. Then you look for a free subscription on Azure. So I'm going to click on this. A lot of us used to use this. We still use it if we cannot get the courseware from maybe the Microsoft related platforms. So you have access to this. You have both the e-copy, the soft copy, as well as the hard copy. Then the interesting aspect about this is you have access to the course manual, the textbooks. In case of if you need slides and other maybe related resources, you can come and click on related resources. So if you click on related resources, it's going to take you to a website. Then on that website, you will see how you can actually access the slides. Let me go back. I think I'm looking for something instructor resources. Let me go back to related resources. So, okay, fine. View instruct. This is for the. So yeah, I basically want to search for slides. I think it's under extra. I think it's under extra. View instruct. Okay, fine. Instructor companion slide site. So I go to the link. So if we check properly, we will see some. It will take us to a site where we can basically have access to the slides for that particular training or for that particular course. Let me check. Go back to related resources, and under related resources, instructor companion is the 104. Extra. Okay, I think it's under extra. Read more of the instructor slide. So instructor companion site. But okay, fine. It's yes. We'll come and click browse by resource. So you go to PowerPoint. So this will provide you the slide for each of the chapters. So this way you can use the textbook as well as use the slide to make your training delivery a lot much easier. Then in addition to that, you can also get for non-Microsoft. We can come here and search for SAA, that's C03. I think this is for AWS. So this also display. So this is for AWS. You can search for GCP and so on. So this is great. This is open. This is also open. You see a lot of interesting things there. There are slides. Then concerning the lab, there's usually a guide on how to set up lab for the training. So this is for the other courseware sources. Please, any questions, please? Then next, we're going to be looking at something I call maybe next generation, or I think the most important aspect, especially for MCTs. I'm going to be looking at Microsoft Learn. This is the URL, GitHub, Microsoft, and so on. So Microsoft Learn is basically a robust, all-inclusive learning platform. Microsoft Learn contains resources both for trainings as well as for production use. So on Microsoft Learn, we'll get to that. We'll get to put that very soon. It's a very, very robust website where we see lots of learning resources. But in addition to that, we also have documentations that we can use in production environment. We also have documentations that we can use in creating courses. So Microsoft Learn and GitHub, these are like a present day website that MCTs use that you can get resources from. What makes it also interesting is it is not only robust, it is also open source. Open source in the sense that both MCTs and non-MCTs can actually access the courseware there. It is also free. For Microsoft Learn contains more of like the documentations, the theories. But the lab guide is usually hosted on GitHub. Then in addition to that, GitHub is basically a platform traditionally for collaboration when developers are trying to develop software. But in addition to GitHub being a platform where software development collaboration is done, it also contains the lab instructions for Microsoft technology, especially the cloud technologies. But currently, I think that Microsoft Learn is still in a transitional phase. It's still a lot of work is still being done. Because when you go to Microsoft Learn, you will not see slides there. The slides are available for MCTs only at the Learning Download Center. So we're going to be looking at this very soon. In addition to that, if you go to the Microsoft Learn environment, you will not have access to maybe get labs, but you can get access to maybe sandboxes. But the real labs for the courses, you have to get them from the courseware marketplace. We're going to be looking at that in more detailed form. Then the labs. So yeah, this is where you see your slides. This is where you see maybe training guide. But in terms of the course manual, you can get it from Microsoft Learn. In addition to that, we also have some authorized lab hosters. A very popular one is yours faithfully, XtremeLabs. So XtremeLabs basically provides us the lab we use for doing our hands-on. So we're going to be looking at this very soon. So for the modern day, this is basically the platform that is heavily being used for labs, for trainings. Then the Learning Download Center is still there, where you access the PowerPoint slide. But take note, this is strictly for MCTs. Then for the authorized lab hosters like yours truly, XtremeLabs, most likely it's for MCTs too. Then I'm going to be going to this site so that we see some how it looks like and how it works. Then I've already talked about the Microsoft Learning Download Center. This is for MCTs only. So it contains resources like the PowerPoint slides, the demo instructions, the maybe updates, and majorly for Microsoft courses only. Then we also have some lab authorizers that basically provides us the labs. The labs also have their lab instructions that we use for doing our hands-on. But take note, you could actually do everything with this combination. Yes, you could actually do it. As a matter of fact, for me, a lot of time I prefer to use this. You can use the Microsoft Learn, then you can use GitHub, and then when it comes to getting the maybe lab environment, maybe like Azure, you can get free subscription. Then with the free subscription, we have a detailed step-by-step lab guide on GitHub. Most likely, the lab hosters, they get their lab instructions from this GitHub too, so that when it comes to doing some hands-on, some practice, you have a lab instruction that guides you on how we set that up. So let's quickly look at the Microsoft Learn, the Microsoft Learn that contains a course manual. They will also look at the GitHub course labs. So Microsoft Learn usually contains the lab manual. Then the GitHub complements it by providing us the lab instructions. So this is the URL to access each of these sites. I'll switch. So for this particular environment, I'm interested in looking at Microsoft Learn. So this is the URL. Microsoft Learn is a very robust platform. You can do a lot of things. We go to so if you connect to this page, you come to Learn. It gives you a summary of what this site is all about. I think that Microsoft intention or vision for Microsoft Learn is a platform where you can go and learn anything Microsoft. Learning in terms of delivering trainings, in terms of maybe documents you can use for deployment to create textbooks, in terms of writing certifications, in terms of uploading events, in terms of if you are a developer, you need code to do certain things. You can access it from this centralized portal. So for the documentation, if you click on documentation, you're going to see detailed documentation on the different Microsoft technologies. This is robust, very robust and wide. But what we are really interested in is the training option. So if you click on the training option, you'll see different options. Specifically, let's go to learning paths. Then for learning paths, you can search for the particular course you may be interested in. So I'll search. Then this would give you different learning paths. But there's actually something about Microsoft, this site. This site, permit to say, is so robust that using it could be challenging. There are a lot of things, the information content here could be very confusing. Personally, I think that a course should be designed for Microsoft Learning. It's robust, a lot of things here. Then if you go through some of these learning parts, you may realize that it doesn't align completely with the slides that you get from the Learning Download Center. I think this was raised in some previous training that we did. Then sometimes if you want to get the particular learning manual for a specific course, it could be challenging. But I realized that one way that this can be resolved is go to the courseware marketplace. Then maybe search for a particular course. Let's say we search for MX100. Then you click on it, so it displays. So if you want to, from this environment, Before now we used to get everything, but right now the course manual has been moved to Microsoft Learn. But good enough, we have a link. So if you click this link, it will take you to the supposed course manual for this course. But if you come to Microsoft Learn and you start searching for it, you may not be too sure if you are using the right course manual. So while I was preparing this, I did some checking. When I saw this, I tested it. I was actually relieved. So if you click on this link, it will take you to the right course manual. So this is the course manual you would reference if you are delivering this course. But let's take note. Like I said, I think this platform is still being improved, because if you check it, sometimes it could be a bit challenging to work with, because sometimes some of the information you're seeing here does not align correctly with the actual slide that we pick that we are using from the Learning Download Center. So, okay, fine. So this is Microsoft's Learning Download Center. If we come to MX, maybe 100. So MS 100, if you display it, you will see different course resources, but you won't get the trainer's manual. The trainer's manual has now been moved to this particular Microsoft Learn. You'll see other resources here. Very importantly, you get your PowerPoint slide. So I think this has to be harmonized. The team that is basically working on developing the Microsoft Learn platform has got to look for a way of basically harmonizing the information contained in the PowerPoint slides and the learning platform. So that's one observation I have. The another observation I have is, so yeah, you have learning part, and then you have courses. So when you click on learning path, you see different information. You see both learning path and module. Then when you click on the courses, you'll see majorly for courses. I think if the developers of this platform could possibly create either learning path or courses. Instead of having courses, we can have either maybe courses or learning path, but we have module, or other platform calls it Quest. Quest in the sense that sometimes you may just be interested in specific lab, specific demo, but doing it this way may be a bit, difficult. It's my personal opinion, but I'm just trying to make a suggestion of if I click learning path, I want to see learning path alone. I don't want to see module. I don't want to see a blend of module and learning path. For example, this is supposed to be learning paths. Then if you click on learning path, it should display learning path only. Then from learning path, you can now maybe expand to specific module. So this is my first observation. My second observation is there should be a way of sorting or grouping these courses, not just going to search. For example, let's say I want to get courses on Azure. So yeah, I click on learning paths. This is display modules. Like I said, I may be interested in okay, fine. Let me go to learning path. So when I come to learning path, it does the filtering. But in addition to doing this filtering, I think I would have raised a situation where I want to get for Azure only. Then on this Azure only, there could be some form of arrangement. So then from this arrangement, I can expand. For example, for the infrastructure aspect, I can expand. It shows me courses, learning path on infrastructure alone. I'm thinking if there's a way that we can actually have that there, it will be great. Then in addition to that too, if there's a way we can sort based on course code. For example, for the Azure infrastructure courses, they usually start at AZ, maybe AZ 104, in addition to doing some search here. So these are basically some observations I have concerning it. Then we've already talked about GitHub. I think then for GitHub gives us lab instructions. So you actually do not need to be connected to it before you can get your information. I enter that course code. I click on that. So it will display various repositories, but the one we are using, the right one is Microsoft Learning. This is official from Microsoft Learning. So we right click. Then when we right click, this will display that particular course. So this will give you this. You go to instructions. Then from the instruction, you go to labs. So this will provide us the lab details. So what it means is from the Microsoft Learn platform and then GitHub, we can actually do full-fledged training by also getting maybe free Azure subscription. Now I think we've also looked at the Learning Download Center strictly for MCTs. Then for the XtremeLab, so yours faithfully, XtremeLabs, that's organizing this section. You can also get labs you can use for your training. Interestingly, you can get labs both for the cloud technologies as well as those on-premises technology. Good enough, these lab hosters, they still keep the labs. In case you want to do some practice, you can actually get in touch with them privately, and the labs are also available. So IE, this is basically 10.961. Officially, Microsoft has retired this course. This is 10.961. So these are courses that were on their on-premises server technologies. These courses have been retired by Microsoft, so you won't see them on the MOC part. But good enough, the lab hosters, they still provide them for us to be able to use. So I'll switch to my slides, and any questions, please? Okay, so I think this will bring us to the end, and then hopefully, especially for those of us that are relatively new, you can actually access courseware to deliver trainings, both on Microsoft technologies and on Microsoft technology through the various sources that we just looked at. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John, for the great presentation. I hope the participants have really enjoyed it, and I could see their engagement as well. So if anybody has any questions which they were not able to ask right now in this session, they can just reach out to us, or they can reach out to John as well about specific queries, and we would love to address your queries.